Hello, folks, and welcome to another Monday episode of the FootyNotes Podcast. My name is Bonisile, and going to be talking some football as always with y'all on this Monday, and going to go over a few results that don't involve my football club because that's how I survive these Arsenal drubbings and miserable moments. I'll get to Arsenal in a little bit, but watch a lot of football, and that's become my new thing now, where it's like, yep, just reminding myself that I love the game of football, and I knew the game of football before there was an Arsenal in my life. Of course, I'll never drift away from the club, but my goodness, it does definitely feel a bit better and different when you're watching football being played by other teams, not yours. Speaking of other teams, I think the first game that I saw this weekend was Brighton Watford, and Brighton basically, they seemingly have a very good record whenever they play Watford at home, and they continued and as they treated themselves to a 2-0 win, thanks to goals from Shane Duffy and Neil Maupay. And Brighton under Graham Potter have been a very good team in terms of a lot of their underlying statistics tend to speak well of what they do, and this game was pretty much the same, where they dominated the ball, and the numbers agreed with. Also, just they had a superior xG to Watford's, and they also had 57% of the ball to Watford's 43, and then their xG was 1.31 to Watford's 0.45. So they had a good game. Moved the ball through the phases, good build up play, neat football, and Yves Bissouma had himself a day in the midfield. Really showed that he really belongs in the upper tier of English football, and Brighton have done a really good job with their recruitment. And this one guy over here is definitely one of those guys who just shows, week in and week out for this Graham Potter team that he is a class act. And boy, would my Arsenal benefit from having somebody who plays like that in the midfield. He's an athlete. He's covers a lot of ground, and he's actually quite capable on the ball too. He's not the most creative like Pirlo type, or even like Thiago or Thomas Partey type, but he is, for me, one of those all action kind of like Idrissa Gueye, N'Golo Kante type midfielders. So I like what I see from him. I don't know if Arsenal or anybody, big will come for him, because he is obviously going to be going to the AFCON as well in January. So, and that's part of the problem right now. Whenever, African players are raised into transfer conversation, people are always talking about that. But yeah, Brighton, they've had themselves a really decent, run in the Premier League, and I actually think they are assigning like Edin Ketia, or maybe even somebody. I know Danny Ings is already bought by Aston Villa, but they need a striker, and if they get themselves a striker, even if it's Edin Ketia type striker, they will be in business, and they will be they'll finish better than 15th, which is I think their best finishing position in the recent season. And last year I think they were number 17 or something like that. But if they can get somebody who can score goals, Brighton, because Maupay, while he's a pest and a hustler, he just doesn't score regularly enough. He doesn't score frequently enough. And then City, 5-0 win against Norwich. And That one was a straightforward win, and it tends to be, I guess, for Norwich whenever they visit stadiums like City, or when Liverpool goes to their stadium, or when they go to Liverpool Stadium. It's not a great return for Norwich so far, but I think, like Arsenal, they've played two really good teams in the first two games, and it will get better. It's just too bad that they've also conceded too many goals, though, because if they didn't concede 5 and 3 in the first two games, that would have been the losses are losses, but losing by that many goals is what's difficult, I think, for many people to take who are supporters of Norwich. But yeah, the champions were really, I guess, ready to make up for their loss against Tottenham last week, and they did just that. I think the first goal was an own goal from Tim Krul, who basically deflected in a cross from Gabriel Jesus for the first goal, and then the second goal was Jack Grealish, who also scored a very strange goal. I don't think he will care, but it was one of those crosses from the right with Grealish on the far post on the left, and Grealish just basically was just standing there trying to, be on the far post for a tap in, and the ball hit him and it went in. It literally hit him. I don't think he knew a lot about how he put that ball in, but as I said, I don't think he will care. And then kind of like a shot from 6 yards from Aymeric Laporte. And then Sterling and Mahrez scored the fourth and fifth goal. And it was basically, an easy day at the office for Manchester City. Gabriel Jesus was a very worthy man of the match, I think, in this game. He played really well down the right flank, with Ferran Torres playing as a striker, in the number 9 role, and then Jack Grealish playing on the left. City are going to be a very interesting watch. I suspect that Jack Grealish will be scoring more goals than he ever has for Aston Villa, because even though he's a great player, Jack Grealish, he hasn't been a player who scores in volume. He scores a goal here and there, creates a lot of chances, but doesn't, he himself convert goals. So let's see what he does at Manchester City. Next game, Leeds 2, Everton 2. This one was basically one of those games where these two grown, like old men, kind of the Premier League. I think Rafa might not be happy to hear me say this, but like him and Marcelo Bielsa had their teams like basically going at each other for this encounter, and Leeds came back twice from a goal behind to draw 2-2 at home. Calvert-Lewin scored in a penalty, which I guess the referee on the field had missed, but VAR caught it, and Calvert-Lewin was the guy fouled in the box, I think by Cooper or somebody. I think it was Cooper, and Calvert-Lewin converted from the penalty spot. And then we had this guy, actually, he had the same, he didn't have the same mistake, but it's the same guy who made an error at the back, Michael Keane, as he had done the previous game. He just couldn't sort his feet out very quickly, and then the ball was robbed. Patrick Bamford plays in Klich, and Klich scored to make it 1-1. And then Everton get another goal, actually early in the second half, in the 50th minute, by Demarai Gray. And then Rafinha, who had been having good moments but not converting, scored a very, very good goal. Like, just it went through such a narrow window, or like such a narrow corridor of players, and they found exactly the perfect spot where he could have only kicked it, and it went in there, and it was a 2-2. And then Palace and Brentford had a 0-0 draw, a couple of close moments there, but the game was an okay 0-0. It was not a boring 0-0, but Brentford maintained their unbeaten run. I guess they two games and unbeaten, 4 points, thanks to Arsenal on opening day. And then, Patrick Vieira got his first point as a Premier League manager. And then the next game was Aston Villa, Newcastle United. Villa won this game, but I think Newcastle could have also done themselves a little favor by converting their early chance, within the first 5 minutes. I think it was like 4 minutes and some seconds. Callum Wilson is through 1-on-1 with Emi Martinez, and he kicks it wide. Didn't even hit the target, and from there onwards, Newcastle had a few other chances, but I think Danny Ings' bicycle kick right at the stroke of hard time opened the game, gave Villa the lead, and then Villa also were a little lucky, I think, to get the penalties against Jamal Lascelles, and El Ghazi converted and made it 2-0 for Villa. But yeah, I mean, Villa was just, I guess some of the big calls were going in their favor. I think the VAR might have been right in calling the offside against Callum Wilson when he had been played through by Joe Willock with the ball over the top, and Emi Martinez clattered into him and took him out. Emi Martinez gets the yellow card. Newcastle get a penalty. VAR turns it over because back in the little, in the move, just earlier in the move, Callum Wilson's big toe pretty much was offside. But yeah, the VAR thing, I don't know what's going to be the way they're going to handle it this year. They've been saying they're not going to be doing those toe offsides, but it only took 1 week and the toe offsides were back. And then as for the penalties as well, it's been a bit of a weird one when I think about how Dele Alli got a penalty against Wolves when he engineered contact, and then Bukayo Saka against Chelsea doesn't get a penalty. So that's going to be an interesting one. I don't know where this VAR thing is going, but let's hope that it becomes a less of a topic as the season goes on. Liverpool 2, Burnley 0. I'm not going to spend too much time on Burnley. They lost. Liverpool deserved the win. Too many rugby tackles, and then Sean Dyche wants to be defensive about it. But yeah, his players do play a different game sometimes, which doesn't look like football. I'm not going to go too hard on them, but too many times Burnley players are grabbing people by necks and putting them down, or I don't know. I just don't like the way they play football, and I'd be happy to not see them again. But they know how to stay in the Premier League. They know how to stay there, and yeah. So it's going to be a while before I don't see them again. So I'm just going to get used to seeing them. United, after a very great weekend, an opening weekend, they drew 1-1 with Southampton at Southampton. Good for Southampton because they needed some points, and they were able to take advantage of United not making the most of their chances. And then Wolves lost to Tottenham. I think this was probably one of the best games I saw this weekend. Wolves literally battered Tottenham. They basically were living in the Tottenham defensive third, and they were playing a 3-4-3, but my goodness, it was so fluid, good in possession, good in transition, defended really well, but sometimes they were also open to the counter-attack because Tottenham has got very pacey forwards who know exactly how to capitalize on a high defensive line. So it was a very good game. And I think the referees did Tottenham a little favor by giving them the penalty. And Wolves were incredibly wasteful. They were just wasteful. And so I think if Wolves are going to play like that, they'll be fine. They were actually playing better yesterday than they did most of last season with Nuno. I thought they were going to be relegated, and maybe they will be, but if they play like that, they're going to win more than they're going to lose. And finally, after this little break, I'm going to talk about my Gunners, who pretty much got screwed by Chelsea.
Hey guys, if you're thinking about a way to start your own podcast, I would encourage you to check out Anchor if you haven't heard of it. It's a free platform where you can create your own podcast, distribute it, having all the editing tools for free, all in one place. Check it out. Download the Anchor app for free on your iPhone or Google phone, whatever phone you have. It's a smartphone. You can find the app by downloading it or go to anchor.fm to get started. Check it out. Cheers.
And we're back, guys. So Arsenal Football Club, 2-0 loss to Chelsea. Yeah, this one was a little bit of a hard one to watch because I didn't expect Arsenal to do anything other than maybe a draw at best. But to be honest, I really didn't think Arsenal were going to win this one, and so I guess I'm not as upset, and I wasn't as upset watching it. It's kind of hard to know what to make of Arteta's teams, especially when certain pieces are missing. I'm starting to worry a little bit, not too much. I worry that Arteta seems to need the perfect circumstances in order for his teams to do what he wants them to do. And I'm going to try and expand on what I mean when I say this. So, in the beginning of last year, the team won 3 games or something like that, and then went on the spell where they didn't win for like 2 to 3 months or whatever. Like we won at Old Trafford early October and then didn't win again until December 26th. So that's like November 4th. Yeah, December 4th. So it's almost 3 months because January 4th would have been 3 months. And so Arsenal goes on the spell and then they let some of these guys go. Smith Rowe comes in, there's a number 10, starts to look like different team, but still young. And then they get Odegaard, and then he has, what looks close to a perfect 11 for him, I guess, at the time. And he goes on a run, I mean, we still got knocked out in the FA Cup at Southampton, okay. But it was not a perfect run, but it was a good run, like third best form in the last, I guess, 20 or so games of the Premier League. That's more than half the Premier League season, And so, I give credit where it's due, but my goodness, it's hard to watch Arsenal play under him when there are a couple of injuries because all of a sudden it starts to look bad. And so I'm not sure how much of that drop is player quality or how much of it is his inability to get his squad players to fill in, or his inability to simplify his ask off of the players so that the players can at least get the instruction and understand what they're supposed to be doing. There were moments when he was like shouting at Smith Rowe, who seemed confused about whether he was supposed to press or hold back. So it's one of those things where it's like, Smith Rowe just got a contract till like 2026. So he's clearly one of the guys that Arteta and the club believes is bought into the he's bought into the ideas that Arteta has. And it's like one of those things. I'm a teacher, right? If one of my students doesn't understand, and it's one of my top students, if one of my top students doesn't understand an instruction, then probably some of the other students who normally, don't get things as quickly as that student, or don't always get things as well as that student, what chance do they stand, understanding what I'm asking them? Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because, last year, not last year, yesterday, like last year, we had a lot of times where we had players coming in for people who are injured, because it happens in a football season. And yesterday we had, the whole Auba and Laka still affecting, his ability, Arteta's ability to select them. And so Martinelli stepped in again, and it didn't look like we were playing with the center forward for a while there. Even though Martinelli, is one that a lot of Arsenal fans love, and I won't hear his name. I haven't heard his name being brought up in these first two games, because people we weird as football fans in this way. Like, one player needs time and then another player doesn't. It all depends on whether we like the player or not. And I'm saying this because, if Eddie Nketiah had had the performances that Martinelli had in the last two games and Balogun had, people would have been losing their shit. But they're not losing their shit over the kids. They're losing their shit with Arteta. But if Eddie had been playing and played like that, people would have been mad at Eddie. But the point I'm trying to make, though, going back to this whole thing of, like, if one of your A students, Smith Rowe, is not understanding what he needs to be doing, what chance to some of your other kids, your Cedrics and the likes, what chance do they stand understanding your thing? And so, like, I don't know. I think the guy really, really loves the club, and I think he really wants to do well, and I want him to do well. But I'm starting to wonder, do the players even know? I mean, he speaks English very well and is a strong communicator. So the only thing that I can think of is maybe he's just a dictator, and the players don't, the players are playing with so much fear that they don't want to piss him off. So they do everything to a T, which is not healthy if that's what's going on. That can't be healthy. That players are afraid to, so afraid to disappoint him that they, maybe he starts to be an inhibitor. I don't like to think that this is a possibility for professional players, but if that's the case, then we're in trouble. We are in real trouble. And the Chelsea goals, I know a lot of people feel, that a back three might have fixed what happened with the Chelsea goals. I think Chelsea would have found another way to score. They're just better at the moment. I think even if we had meshed them up in a 3-4-3 like they have been, in a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, whatever version of a back three we would have played, I think it would not have been good enough yesterday. Sometimes you just have to, like, really look in the mirror and be like, personnel, player for player, they were better than us, probably from 1 to 11. I'm trying to think who could have gotten into that Chelsea starting 11. I can't think of anybody. I'm trying to think. I'm going through the starting 11 in my head for Arsenal. Leno doesn't get in. Right back, Cedric, nope. Center backs, Murray, Holding, nope. They won't even see a Chelsea bench. Left back, Tierney. Maybe Tierney gets in, but I still think Chelsea's Alonso gives Chelsea what Chelsea want to do more. And Ben Chilwell, was probably, so even Tierney would have a hard time getting into that Chelsea team. And then in midfield, Xhaka and Sambi. I like Sambi. He looked good yesterday. I'm not gonna talk shit about him, really. Like, he was able to spray passes around and really, like, take the leadership of launching us forward and like getting us going a little bit, especially when the game was a little bit hard. He was not afraid to take risks and like play penetrating balls and sometimes lofted balls in behind the defense. So he was good, but he wouldn't see the Chelsea shirt at Chelsea in the starting 11. Jacques already said that. And then Smith Rowe, Saka, and Martinelli, Pepe. None of those guys are getting in the Chelsea team ahead of the Chelsea starters. And speaking of Saka, yeah, I'm not happy that I'm hearing about things. I didn't hear them myself, but I heard online yesterday after the game that some Chelsea fans were booing him. Not happy about that, but I'm gonna choose to focus on the football when it comes to Saka. I don't know what the instruction was to him, but my God, he left us exposed on the left flank. He wasn't tracking back. There was too much gap between him and KT defensively, and I know that the boy had a long summer and maybe he should not have even been on the field, and he was trying to do the club a favor or his coach a favor by saying okay he was going to kid up and play, but he just really didn't. He didn't do a whole lot of a lot of helping defensively. Offensively, he was okay. He was okay. It wasn't his best self. I know he's trying to play himself back into shape and back into form. But yeah, for both goals, I'm like, where is Bukayo Saka? Excuse me. So yeah, like I just think the boy is about to be 20 and is still, got a lot to learn. And so, if Arteta is already not able to get his young stars to chase, then I think it's going to be a problem for him moving forward. And I hope this is not like a pattern, because I'm not going to, I don't want to make this into a pattern in terms of like what I observed with Saka yesterday. But I really hope it won't become a pattern, because when you have a culture of players who don't do their, who just skip their defensive assignments and don't do them, it can breed a different kind of problem. So, we're seeing that Willian might be going back to Brazil. We're seeing that Kolasinac might be going to Turkey. Torreira is getting a deal to go to Fiorentina in Serie A. So, there are a lot of these kinds of things that are starting to happen where, the guys who are unhappy are being moved out. So then when you are betting on these young players and saying, okay, we're going to start fresh, and we talk about, his favorite term, full gas at the beginning of the game, like just before the game. He's like, yeah, we're going to go full gas, full gas. I want us to go there. I want us to show that. And then he doesn't do that. So I think Arteta is going to need to, my neighbor's dog is going crazy. Can't catch a break over here. If it's not the cicadas, it's the dogs. But coming back to the pod, but like, yeah, Arteta needs to really make sure that, he has everything running. In my opinion, I was like, I don't want to overanalyze the Chelsea game because I just think they were better. And I think no matter if we had, I spoke about this in one of my previous pods leading up to this game. I thought even in my preview pod for the season that I thought Brentford would have been a win. So I didn't see the COVID thing happening. So it happened. So we lost. But I then thought Chelsea, before the season started, Chelsea and City were going to be hard games. We're going to be a couple of hard games for Arsenal. And they are turning out to be after Chelsea. And I don't expect Arsenal to pull up trees in Manchester. I even tweeted about this when Manchester City was playing against Tottenham. And I was like, Tottenham already have a plan to play against City that's going to look like whatever Arsenal will do in 2 weeks' time. I will watch the game because I'm an Arsenal fan and I love the club and I want them to do well. I don't ever want them to lose, because it sucks when they lose. It sucks. It ruins my weekend, or weekday, whatever day it is when they play. So my thing is, I think Arteta basically from this game yesterday against Chelsea, and then the game against City, all he's gonna get is high quality tape of how to stop teams abusing us, and hopefully, him and his coaching staff will then use the international break to build the beginning of Arsenal season. I think for me, these first 3 games are still preseason, and we haven't looked ready. We have not looked ready. Saka is still in kind of like preseason shape. Couldn't really, even keep up with his defensive assignments yesterday. I'm not blaming Saka for the loss. I just think whoever was there yesterday, it would have been hard. Even if we had put Martinelli there, he would have, put in a shift, worked really hard. But like Arteta was saying, Chelsea were able to play around our press, or our half-hearted press. So, I think Arsenal fans who worry about their health and who care about their mental well-being too, physical and mental well-being, I think you do yourself a massive service if you don't expect anything from the game in Manchester next week. And then after that, you start having a couple of games where you're like, okay, now you can go on a run, maybe not necessarily win them all, but like, after the international break, you have games like Norwich, and there's a few more games that are winnable. Like Burnley will be hard away from home, but I think that's winnable. And then it will be the third round of the Carabao Cup. Then the third game after that is Tottenham. That one will be hard, but winnable. And it's at home. I know Nuno has a good record against Arsenal teams recently, but just don't leave them with too much space at the back. And I think Arteta might have to go back to the back three, where he plays like Tierney as a left-sided centre back, like he looked yesterday, to no avail. Tierney, maybe Ben White and Gabriel. Maybe Gabriel will be fit by then. That will be another month from today. Gabriel, Ben White, and Tierney. That would be a good back three if you were to do that. And then you could play maybe Nuno Tavares or Ainsley Maitland-Niles if he's still at the club at that point, on the left wing back. And then hopefully we'll have a new right back, because I don't know who will play at right back. Looking at our team right now, we're not looking great in that spot. And it's going to be a long season if we don't get a right back. And then after the Spurs game, it will be Brighton away, Crystal Palace at home, Aston Villa at home, fourth round of the Carabao Cup, Leicester away, Watford, before there's like a 2-week break again, between November 6th and November 20th. So my thing is, I think basically until the Watford game, Arteta should have several winnable games there, in which point the club will be able to have a good look at who we are and what we need to do, because City will get no points. That's 3 games. Game 4 and 5 are winnable. Burnley and Norwich. I'm not sure about the Spurs. Let's say a draw, but I think we should win that one. That would be 9 points after 6 games if we were to win all those 3. But it never happens like that. So I think after 6 games, we'll win 2 and draw 1. That will be like 6 games, 7 points. And then Brighton is a tricky one, but I think we could beat Brighton away, or I don't know what's going to happen, because they play good ball, And then that would be the 7th game, 8th game, 9th game, Leicester 10th game. So basically, before we play Liverpool on the 20th, Watford that would be 11 games. That would be November 6th. That would be a really telling moment to see if Arteta will take us where we would like to go in terms of direction wise. Not even like take us into the top four, because I think top four is basically a tough ask for this year. I don't think Arsenal have a squad to build for top four this year, even though I think we will be better than last year. We won't go 3 months without a win, or nearly 3 months without a win. Even with all this crap, including the international break and all of that. But what I think Arsenal they need to do though is to like really have somebody we can talk to Arteta about just being a little less rigid, man. You know, put teams based on what the players that you have are. I know there's a philosophy thing and there's a long-term project. Sometimes it's okay to press pause on the long vision just for a week or just to survive a period. Especially when you don't have, I think even your squad would understand when you don't have the guys who normally play, because sometimes some styles of play require you to have a certain kind of player, and sometimes even tactical and technical superiority. And you're not going to get that to a great deal as an Arsenal team that has a lot of youngsters. So I think, play to the strength of your players a little bit more. It feels a little bit unto Arsene Wengerish, where you have Olivier Giroud, but we're playing carpet football and not really, playing to his strengths enough. And now we have players who don't play like Olivier Giroud, and we cross the ball into the box like there's no tomorrow. So I think the coach needs to be a little bit more flexible. I'm really rooting for him. I'm hoping he wins and does well, but he's his own worst enemy when it comes to his rigidity. And I feel for him because, yes, he has had a lot going on, but like, there's not ever going to be a moment where you're going to have a perfect run of time in football. You're never going to have you might be lucky enough maybe to have a couple of months of an injury-free first 11, but there's always going to be a kink. And I think with Arteta, he needs to have a plan B or plan 1B or plan 1C, 1D, 1A. Like, you're not going to have all your players all the time. And so I hope he and people around him can help him realize that, and maybe just unleash his players a little bit more. And that way the season could hopefully turn around. Because at this point, I don't think Arsenal fans are even expecting Arsenal to get into the top four. But I think they're expecting 18 months to 20 months into his role at Arsenal. I think they're expecting to know what Arsenal are doing. Several times I've spoken about Spurs in a couple of months already have, an identifiable way of playing. I don't like it, but you know what they're trying to do. Newcastle under Steve Bruce, who's not even a great coach, they have a clear idea what they're trying to do. Aston Villa have a clear idea what they're trying to do. And the list goes on, Leicester, Brendan Rodgers, West Ham under David Moyes, Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. All of these teams, like, they have an identity. And I know some of them are projects that have been going on for a minute, but I've named, number of coaches. Brighton, like, Arteta hasn't been, I know Potter has been at Brighton longer than Arteta, but it's not that much longer. How much time do you need to show a consistent way of doing things? And I think that's another part of the problem with Arsenal. Are they a pressing team? Are they counter-attacking team? And in possession, what are we like? It's very, very, flaky and not easily identifiable. So hopefully, this year, because I used to give him the excuse, Arteta, that, he didn't have a proper off season, after the first 6 months of coaching, and then, went back into it. And then he was coaching basically, on the drawing board, not necessarily a lot of training ground time. And so he's going to get that this year. So by November, we should be seeing, like, I know a lot of people think he should have it all figured out by now. I'm only now starting to ask questions, and I'm hoping to see in the next 2 months what the evolution will be when he has most of the players that he wants in the squad. And then he has a week in between games where he actually has a week to train and work and implement things. So for me, this is like the judgment season for him. Whether the club wants to fire him or not, that's another conversation. For me, I'm going to be a little bit more disgruntled if I don't see any, change of direction in what he is trying to do with what he has. I don't expect wins, but I want an identifiable way of doing things, man. It must be hard to be a player, and you don't even see a level of consistency in what y'all trying to do. So I am going to talk to you guys after the West Brom game. Hopefully Arsenal gets their first win of the season, because they're not going to get anything in Manchester, in my opinion. But I'll talk to you guys before the Manchester City game, after the West Brom game. And hopefully there'll be more transfer news and confirmations of some of these deals that look like they're about to happen for Torreira, Willian, Kolasinac, and then Edin Ketia. I don't know what's going to happen there. He doesn't want to sign, but the club are getting offers that they're not happy with, because the couple of offers that I'm hearing being reported and reading being reported for £10 million, and Arsenal want at least double that with a guy who has 1 year left on his contract. So we'll see who blinks there. But yeah, it's on them that Eddie is only left with 1 year, and they're now having to kick away offers. They should never have gotten to this. They should have sold him, with more time on the contract, or extended him, charm him, promise him something, promise him to be a little bit more game time. Hardly kicked the ball second half of last season. After that FA Cup, being knocked out by Southampton, Eddie started that game, and he didn't really play much after that. And so, his agent is probably trying to look out for him, and I don't blame the kid. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully there'll be some more deals. Hopefully a right back, and hopefully no more COVID at Arsenal, man. Fucking hell. It's just hard to build any momentum when you have things like that happening. So I do feel sorry for him, Arteta, the kids, the squad, and the kids who've had to step in while senior players are falling around like flies, whether it's through injuries or COVID. And then, but I guess, if you're gonna get all these different things happening, it's just as well that they happen during this time, because I think even at full strength, we would have had a hard time beating Chelsea and Man City. And so hopefully we're at full strength, after the international break, and hopefully a lot of our players don't get selected, or if they get selected, maybe they're playing for countries who are going to go to restricted quarantine zone so that they don't travel. I don't know why they're playing an international break so early. I would hope that a lot of Arsenal players don't get selected or don't travel at all, so that they can work together with him and the coaching staff, and so that they can start hit the ground running after the international break. All right, I'm going to stop here for this one. Thank you for listening, as always, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for your support. Cheers.